MJT's Wycombe Wanderers Plus, and this is a special. I want to do a basic explaining of where the money comes in for all the different football teams. The reason for this is I want to explain why teams like Liverpool always come top, teams like West Ham always want to come middle, teams like West Brom will always go down, and then for the league, for the championship, why teams like Bournemouth, who are a parachute team, will go back up, a team like Reading will always end up in the middle, and a team like Wycombe that have just been promoted will go back down. Now, where we have these teams up here, I don't want to talk about these teams as such. Liverpool represent a team that come top, but it could be any of them. West Ham, a team who've been in the Premier League for this length of time, but it could be any of those teams, etc. So I'm not talking about these individual teams, I'm talking about teams who are roughly in their position. Therefore, when we talk about the money, I am not talking about the exact quantity of, I am talking roughly this amount. So here we go then. Let's start with what the basic and merit talk about. Now, what happens at the beginning of the season is that the Premier League sell their league, if you like, to TV. They will get a certain amount of money that they then choose to do whatever they want with. This is the basic. They split the basic money, the amount they're given, they split it in half. They were given last year £5 billion. Yeah, that's 5 billion. And what they did was they split it equally amongst all the teams in the Premier League. They gave every team £35 million. Sorry, it's £35 million. They also gave teams in the Championship, they gave them £4 million. And then that was approximately 50% of the money. The teams lower down in lower leagues, in League 1 were given 0.7 and in League 2 were given 0.4 million. But that adds up to approximately 50% of the money. Then the rest, on merit, this is where, depending on where they finish in the league, depends on how much they get. So for coming first, so whatever team comes first, like Liverpool, they would be given 38 million. The team that come 10th would end up getting about 21 million. The team that come bottom would get £1.9 million. Now, in the lower leagues, like the Championship, they didn't get different quantities of money depending where they ended up in the league. They got 2 million each. So it was the same amount wherever they finished in the league. Okay, the next amount of money is facility money. Now, this is what they call it. Why, I don't know. I didn't quite understand this bit. And this is, they get 10 million for the very least amount of money for being on TV, and then they get an extra 1 million for every time they are on TV. So they will all get 10, and then they add 1 million for every time they're on TV. Liverpool, a couple of years ago, who came top, they ended up walking away with live games, etc. They ended up with picking up £30 million. West Ham ended up with 23 million. And the team that came bottom, because nobody was particularly interested, sorry, that was 15 million. That was a bad job. And the team that come bottom, nobody was particularly interested in watching them, and they didn't appear more than 10 times, so finished with 10 million. So they all get 10, then for any time above that they get an extra million. Now, there is facility money for teams in the Championship. Now, this isn't a lot. These teams get, now I'm going to have to try and think how to put this, they will get something like 100,000 every time they're on TV, which is something like, for the team at the top, about 5 times. They'll get it about 3 times. And Wycombe are lucky to end up on there twice. But they then pick up 10,000 for being the away team. So the 100,000 is for the home team and 10,000 for the away team. So let's say Wycombe end up 2 home games and an away, Reading end up 3 home games and 1 away, and Bournemouth end up with 5 times at home and once away. Right, so if we look at this, they're picking up 500,000 approximately. They're picking up 300,000 approximately, and they're picking up 200,000 approximately. Whereas West Brom, who are bottom of the Premier League, are picking up 10 million. Okay, the next little line down here is the overseas money. Now, these are overseas TV rights. Now, this is the important part, and that is the English League Championship is the strongest second tier in the world. And this league is what makes this one so interesting, that people love, because the top team shouldn't win it every year. As soon as that happens, it becomes boring. Who's interested in Celtic or Rangers? Nobody. Who's even in the second tier of Scottish football? Nobody even knows. And the same applies to German leagues, Italy leagues. Nobody is interested. The reason why people in 200 other countries pay for the TV rights from the Premier League and the Championship is because the Championship puts decent teams in the Premier League, and the top decent teams in the Premier League can go down. The problem is that isn't happening. Teams that come up are going straight down, and the teams that went down will be coming straight up, and that then makes the Premier League boring. Now, So overseas money is really important, and it really is. To get this, they need to keep the championship going. They need to keep the 4 tiers running in League 1, League 2. There doesn't need to be a great big gap between each. So how much do they bring in with overseas rights? Well, first of all, it only goes to the Premier League, and you look at this much, 39 million each in that league, not in that league. Now, as soon as this league becomes boring, they could start dropping this. Ticket sales. Well, again, ticket sales this is obviously dependent on the size of the ground, and of course they could build bigger grounds the longer they're in the Premier League. West Ham have done it. They built their bigger ground, and this does make a difference when you see how much. Now, bigger stadiums like Liverpool's, they can sell £84 million a year on tickets. A team like West Ham, maybe in their older stadium rather than new, were selling something in a region of £27 million worth of tickets a year. And then teams similar to West Brom that have just come up are selling 10 million. Now we go down here into the Championship. Now a team like Bournemouth, not the biggest place in all the world, now even if they go up, will only be selling £5 million worth of tickets. A team like Reading actually sell more. They've got a bigger ground and will sell 11 million. A team like Wycombe, we're talking about 1 million. Okay, so that's where we are with this. This is the main part of money earning. Now let's add some of this up before we go into the League, FA Cup, Europa League and the European Cup. Let's have a look at the differences. If we look here, we're talking about, in my head, 73, 103, 150, 142, 200, roughly £220 million, roughly in that amount. If we go to West Ham, we're looking at 56, 66, 70, 110, 130, 140 approximately, and you can see the difference, 220, 140 million. So should Liverpool beat West Ham on a Sunday afternoon? Absolutely, they're raking it in compared with. Now, they're picking up 120. What about West Brom? West Brom are picking up about 55, 65, 105, 115. They're not far behind West Ham, except the difference is that they will drop and then they will start to lose money. So because they've come up, they didn't come up with anything like that sort of money. They're going to get it for a year. Now, this is where parachute money comes into play, because if, like Bournemouth, this year you have come down out of the Premier League, parachute money works on the theory you add that up, you add this up to here, not that, you add it up to there, and then You get that amount of money over a period of 3 years. You will get 50% of that money in the first year, and you then split what's left over the next 2 years. So Bournemouth last year came down with approximately £109 million. Reading, on the other hand, started the season with approximately £7 million. So Reading versus Bournemouth, who are getting 50% of that 109, they're actually starting the season that year with 55 million, Reading with 7. The idea of the parachute money was so that the teams coming down, such as Bournemouth, can pay out the contracts they have left without finding themselves in the red. But what happens is they keep their players on to go straight back up. There's a cup game every year. There's the championship final playoffs, and it's known as the £200 million final. Reason for it is they will go up, pick up 100 million, come down, and will be given another 100 million to spend in the next 3 years, whereas over that period of time Reading will pick up 21 million over 3 years, and West Brom this time will pick up 200 million. So is it fair for Reading to play West Brom? And lastly, Wycombe, who were promoted from the League One, will get this at the end of the year, which is just less than Reading, but they were only being paid 0.7 million in League One, while Reading have been picking up 7 million every year. Reading have been paid 10 times more than Wycombe for the last 10 years. Surprise, surprise, Wycombe, who were promoted, are in virtually bottom place. They're nowhere near Reading. Reading are nowhere near Bournemouth. West Brom are nowhere near West Ham. West Ham are nowhere near Liverpool. But West Brom will probably come down. Bournemouth will probably go up. And next year Bournemouth will probably come down and West Brom will probably go up. Prices of players, just to mention, that's probably worth doing now, and then I'll explain where Liverpool and the top 2 teams can get their other money from. But I'll explain that now. The other reason why these teams will end up in that sort of position is because obviously they're bringing in more money than they're bringing in more money than them, bringing in more money than them, they're bringing in more money than them. Let me give you a clue as to how much these teams spend on players. Liverpool have spent, this is not how much they bought the players for, but how much they're paying in wages. This is a weekly sum of their wages. Liverpool pay Van Dijk £180,000 a year. Sorry? Weekly, sorry, yeah, weekly. Alisson and Mane are being both paid £150,000 a week. Gomez, £75,000 a week. Liverpool's total prices for wages per week is £115 million per year. Wages. Okay, that's wages. West Ham, Sebastian Haller, they spend £115,000 a week wages. Mark Noble, £50,000 a week wages. They spend 70 million a year. West Brom, 70,000 on Charlie Austin, 20,000 on Matt Phillips. Their total is 28 million a year. Bournemouth, they spend 70,000 on Bergovic. Is that right? Begovic, sorry. 35,000 on Stanislas. Thank you. And that comes to a total of 36 million a year. Now you're having a look at what parachute teams, the advantage, it's those that are close, nobody else. And then we come to Reading. They spend 35,000 for Liam Moore, 15,000 on Lucas Joas. Sorry, it's not an S. Joao.
I'm going to say Zhao.
Thank you. And he's 15,000. That comes to a total of 18 million a year. Yes, you're getting where these two are just do this all the time. But nobody else has any chance. They never have a chance of catching them, and they have no chance of catching them. And lastly, Wycombe. Why are Wycombe favourites to go down? Surprise, surprise, they've just bought a player, and he's their most expensive per week, which is 10,000. And another player which is really high on their books, Ikpeazu, is 3,000. Their total spending per week, per year, sorry, I'm getting confused now, 3.5 million a year. Why should Reading beat Wycombe? Why should Bournemouth beat Reading? Why should Liverpool beat West Ham? And why should West Ham beat West Brom? I think that explains it. Okay, now we come to 4 cups. The League Cup, the FA Cup, the Europa League and the European Cup. Well, let's start with the League Cup. As you can see, the winners only actually receive £100,000. The runners-up, £50,000. Now, when we're talking about the quantity of millions knocking around football in the Premier League, that is peanuts. It's about only just over half the wages for a week for Liverpool players. It's nothing. So why even bother putting a decent team out to play in the League Cup? Well, number one, certain managers will win any silverware. That's Manchester City are a good example of putting a full decent team out from the beginning. In fact, some of the other teams put their second teams out up until the semi-finals if they make it. But the real plus for them, for teams such as West Ham, say, would be by winning that cup, it puts them into the second round, in the second quarter qualifying round of the Europa League. And we'll come to that one in a minute. So the League Cup, apart from winning 100,000, which really doesn't count for much, it puts you into the second qualifying round of the Europa League. Now, the FA Cup has a little bit more heaven about it, a bit more of a dream about it. This is because teams from outside of the Football League actually come in way back in the past. We're talking about when football kicks off at the beginning of the season, some teams will start playing in the FA Cup. Of course, we don't really hear about it until we get round to the the first round qualifying or the first round proper. Now, as you can see on here how much money is made, some of those smaller teams, this is a lot of money. Now, they don't only get the money that this shows you for each round, they will also receive TV money if and when they appear on TV. So certain teams love the FA Cup. It brings in more money if they're a success in this cup than anything. But again, as you see, for Premier League teams, the winners get 3.6 million. That again is peanuts compared with what else they can pick up. For certain teams like West Ham, that's not bad actually. They'll take that. That makes a little bit of a difference. But for teams in the Championship, just coming runners up at 1.8, that is quite a lot of money. That makes a big difference. In fact, even getting to the quarterfinals makes a big difference money wise. Again, they will get TV money, remember. But also, by winning the FA Cup, smaller teams like West Ham, if they do win it, will go into the Europa League at group stage proper. So not second qualifying round as with the League Cup, but the group stage proper. And that silverware of the FA Cup is worth winning for A, the memory of, and B, it really does have some form of count in this country. The FA Cup is a dream for most fans and therefore should be for most clubs. Okay, well, off we go again then, and here we go. Europa League and European Cup. Well, as you can see straight away, the Europa League winning money is nothing compared with the European Cup. The qualifying round and the sum based on last 10 years I'll explain in one sec. But in the end, what it means is the winners can pick up £20 million plus their ranking money on how often they've appeared in these competitions in Europe in the last 10 years, plus TV money. Now, if you go through all the qualifying and you get to the final and win the final, that will pick up 20 million. If you add that lot together, you can pick up 20 million. And then add your ranking money and your TV money, and that's not bad actually. You could be picking up somewhere in the region of 40 million. Now that again, compared with the European Cup, isn't that much. Now, to start with, I need to explain how the European Cup TV money is split. Imagine we got a big circle, just like you learnt at school, with triangles. Some of those triangles are bigger than others. That is because the European Cup sells more to certain countries than others on TV. The biggest country that is sold is our country. We take almost about 50% of the TV money will come to this country, and something like about 25%, say, I'm not sure about this, but it's something like that, goes to Italy. The difference is it goes to Italy or it comes to this country, but that 50% that comes here is split between the quantity of English clubs actually in the European Cup. So if we get 50% of the TV money and there's 5 clubs, they only get 10% each of the full amount. But say 4 teams get knocked out virtually straight away, then one team will take back 50% of the money. So what you don't want, what Liverpool or Tottenham didn't want, was a Liverpool-Tottenham final, because that meant that the TV money, they both ended up with less than they could have got had the other team not been so successful. So that's how the TV money works in the European Cup. But if we have a look, if you get through all the way through the European Cup and win it, you will pick up £80 million plus your ranking on how well you've done for the last 10 years. And as an example, Real Madrid picked up 38 million in ranking money. And add that to your TV money, and you could be looking at picking up, the winner usually takes home approximately £130 million. Now, I think when you look at that, overall, everything that I've explained, you will see how the Premier League and the Championship differ with quantities of money, and the top teams in the Premier League, along with the middle teams in the Premier League, differ. Well, I hope that explains most of where the money comes from. I haven't got everything dead accurate, I wouldn't have thought. I had to get my head around most of that. I think I've got most of it right. Just to say though that it does make you feel a little uncomfortable with the Premier League top 6. The way they seem to treat football, I think, is very sad. They don't see it as a family of teams. They see it as we're out for cash. And I think that's very disappointing. And I think if they were to hand out money in a much fairer way down the Football League, I think it would make for a much better competition. And what they need to remember is football is there for entertainment, and it must entertain by one team playing another with a chance of winning. As soon as we end up with a ridiculous scenario where the top 6 always are in the top 6, the 3 teams that came up from the Championship are in the bottom of the Premier League, and the 3 that went down come back up, and the 3 that came up go down, and the 3 that come up go down, all the way down the leagues, I would suggest people are going to stop watching, aren't they? Because I think I will.